Hello, today I wanted to talk about Beautiful World, Where Are You? This is Sally Rooney's third novel that is released today. And I wanted to talk about, is it worth buying or is this one that you should skip? So Beautiful World, Where Are You? This story centers around specifically a female friendship between two characters, Eileen and Alice, and eventually kind of a trio of friendship, Eileen, Alice, and Simon. We kind of right off the hop see that Alice and Eileen are emailing each other, and one of the women, Eileen, still lives in Dublin while Alice has gone away. And we can kind of tell early on that something very specific happened to her. She's a very successful writer, similar to a status that Sally Rooney would now be at, where she's written 2 novels. There's an adaptation of one of her books that is going into film, and extremely successful, but has since stepped away from the spotlight momentarily. And Eileen works for a literary magazine in Dublin, is kind of just making ends meet, and is maintaining a friendship, but a sort of unrequited love with their other friend, Simon. And we're also in a very early chapter introduced to Felix, who is Alice's sort of love interest in the book. All of that being said, obviously this has a lot of, if you like Sally Rooney, I'll say straight off the hop, this definitely delivers. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. So it had the Sally Rooney kind of interesting love interest. It was intriguing. The will they, won't they's were 10 out of 10. She did deliver on that. But specifically what I enjoyed about this book was she played with the dynamic of female friendship that's both has such an intensity, but can also be just as dramatic as a romantic relationship. And that's something I really appreciated with conversations with friends, and something that I thought personally normal people lacked was, I think Sally Rooney is so talented in playing with female dynamics that in conversation with friends, I just wanted to keep reading about the 2 main characters, and that's really how I felt with this. Even though Simon and Felix respectively are quite fleshed out as characters, Alice and Eileen are really the main attractors for this story. They're both very dynamic. We get to see kind of a flashback of how they met in college, how their dynamic really developed into what it is now, and the status of Eileen was quite popular in college, and Alice was kind of the weird figurehead of the school that was talented but pushed aside because she was quite strange, but their friendship still sustained that power dynamic into adulthood, where we see the power dynamic has kind of switched, which again, if you're familiar with normal people, that's also a trope that Sally Rooney plays with quite a lot. So in all things Sally Rooney, she definitely exceeds, and I think this was her best work yet. Another couple of things to note was I think she played with sexual dynamics in a really interesting and more normal way. I think she talked about women in both sexually satisfying situations and leading up to sex in a more realistic way than like a guy just touching a girl's nipple and she orgasms immediately. I thought she does a really good job of an actual depiction of a more healthy and balanced sex life between a male partner and a female partner. Sally Rooney also has some representation, I would say loose representation in this book, where 2 of the main characters identify. One identifies as bisexual, and Alice herself identifying kind of as more pan, that she can fall in love when she falls in love with whoever strikes her fancy. There's also a really interesting dynamic of one of the main characters being very religious, but maybe not in the traditional sense. So our character Simon is a very devout Christian, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's a belief that he holds, that he carries through the story, and there's certain scenes where it's quite playful between Alice and Simon, just how does that work out and the balance between that. And then later on in the book, Simon interacting with bisexual characters and how that all plays out, I think was handled in a more nuanced way than we often see in contemporary fiction, where religious characters tend to either be villainous or it's in a certain time period. I feel like oftentimes in contemporary fiction, we don't really see modernized Christians, as they're better known as sort of Christian ideals that are more modernized to fit the time. So all that being said, I would definitely recommend this book if you get a chance. It's out today. I'll put a couple of links in the description, but definitely would recommend. Like I was saying, if you're a fan of normal people, conversation with friends, a lot of the tropes she plays with are kind of homogenized into this one novel in a very interesting, very unique way. I really liked it. And the last couple of chapters put a really fun timestamp on where the characters end off, that I really, really enjoyed this. I just finished this last night and I honestly just want to read it again. Sally Rooney outdone herself again. I'm a simp for Sally apparently, but I had a really great time. 5 out of 5 stars. One of my favorite reads this year, and I would definitely recommend, if you can, go get your hands on this and give it a read.